Okay, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. Glad you're here. This is our presentation on doing an easy SharePoint approval system. Let's begin. Okay, so first we'll just start with some ground rules and just kind of give you some general information, then I'll jump right into my main presentation. I am Will Cooper. I am a SharePoint solutions developer. I eat and breathe SharePoint. I do all kinds of different things in SharePoint. I've been very focused on that, especially over the course of the last 10 years. And in addition to that, I do a YouTube channel, which you can check out and subscribe to. That's called SharePoint Smart. You can search for that on YouTube. And then another thing, which I'll talk about more at the end of our presentation, is SharePoint dashboards. That is an additional toolkit which you can use with SharePoint to make really awesome looking SharePoint dashboards. About InfoWise, we've been around for a long time, since the mid-2000s, and we're all about making easy to use tools to help you build solutions in SharePoint. And our philosophy is to keep things simple and easy to work with, and also to keep improving. We've continuously improved over that period of time. Ultimate Forms is a full solution toolkit. It lets you build comprehensive tools in SharePoint to manage your business processes or any kind of things that you want to do inside of SharePoint. And you can do that without doing any code, no programming required. And that's entirely inside the SharePoint interface. I am recording this session, and I will post it out to YouTube later today in case you want to replay any of this or share with your colleagues. The last thing I wanted to say to you is, although everyone is on mute, I absolutely hope you'll take the opportunity to ask questions and communicate. And you can do that using the Q&A functionality in the webinar and Teams. So use that to ask questions. Please be patient. It may take some time to get to you, but I'll try to do my best to answer any questions that are entered into that. So let's get started. All right, what I'm going to show you, these tools, Ultimate Forms, are available both for Microsoft 365 and also for on-premise SharePoint. So this is kind of how I think of SharePoint out of the box. Perhaps this is a little bit unfair, but my point is that there are a lot of things missing, and I don't have everything that I want to be able to build a solution in SharePoint. I need more. I need to add something to it, and that's where Ultimate Forms comes in. This really adds all of those tools and functionality that you want to have in order to build really great solutions in SharePoint. So it's just a complete toolbox which lets me do all kinds of awesome things, which we're going to see in just a few moments. Now to the focus of our presentation, which is about doing an approval system in SharePoint. And I'm going to go through what I see as 10 key concepts of what should be in any kind of an approval system. So we're going to lay this out, and this is our manifest, if you will, our goals for what an approval system should include. We, first of all, want to make sure we have a really easy and to understand and nice looking dashboard. So naturally, when we're thinking of an approval process, we want to be able to easily see who needs to do approvals, what the current approval status is, and be able to identify key data like a category or dollar amount associated with that. So the dashboard, of course, is very important. And then under that, we've got the form, which has all of that detailed information of what is going to be approved. In my example, I'm going to show you a contract approval where you will attach a contract and then enter some key data. And that's how our process is managed. So we want to have a form which organizes this all nice and clearly, and it's easy to understand. So having a nice customized form for our process is certainly going to be very important. We'd like to have a dynamic approval process. So in the example I'll show, the number of approvers that are needed is going to change depending on a dollar amount. Now, there could be other factors in your organization, and what's great is you can adjust this really easily. So as you see in this screenshot, you have a different number of approvals for each approval request. So that can be dynamic according to settings you apply. History tracking is really important. So one thing that we'll often run into in an approval process is that it can stall, and that's not good. We need a way to deal with that. And part of that is knowing when things took place, how long it's been, that type of thing. So we need to have an automated logging system that tells us when approvals happen. You know, when was the last person to approve and what did they do? So we want to have that baked into our system. We don't just want to see a snapshot of its current state. We want to track where this is, and it will help us identify and provide transparency if there are delays in the approval. We can find out why that is and maybe figure out what's wrong if it's held up with somebody. We need field level security, and this is not something incorporated into SharePoint and Forms. But with Ultimate Forms tools, we have the ability to control this. And what we need to specifically have happen in our case is we need to make it so that only the designated approver can do that step. So what you see in my screenshot is that I see an approval button because it's me, but I don't have approval buttons on the other ones because that's reserved for those approvers. That needs to be controlled. Naturally, email notifications are going to be a key part of it. We need to prompt users to do their approvals and have that automatic. So both when approvals take place and when the request is initiated. And then, as I mentioned a moment ago, we want to have some rules in here. And this is demonstrating what I just described, where based on the dollar amount, it's going to control how many approvers are needed. We need to have a nice, easy to work with drag and drop interface for attachment. So we do have our field data in our form. My example, I'm showing a contract approval process. So the idea is that the account rep would attach a Word document and other supporting information, and this drag and drop interface is going to be really key. I mentioned the problem with stalled approvals, and a way to help eliminate that is to give users the ability to nudge the people who are supposed to do approvals by just clicking on a button in the form that will automatically send out an email to remind them that they're waiting for that approval. And then we want color coding that helps us see when something's approved. So naturally that would be green, or if it's declined, we want that to be pink, that type of thing. So we want to have some color coding to help us know what the status is on the approval process. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump in. Here I am in SharePoint Online, and we're going to look at this first from a user perspective, and then we're going to look at how this works in the form setup. This template that I demonstrate in the presentation is available for you to download for free. You can do that later when I show you how to install the Ultimate Forms software. You can set up a trial, or if you're already a customer, you will be able to download this exact template that I'm demonstrating for yourself, and then you can play around with it, adjust it, and use it in your own organization. Okay, so I've got these existing approvals that are already in process and initiated. I'm just going to go ahead and enter a new approval. And I'm going to call out some things that are happening as I go along. We want to make this an easy process, so you'll notice right away it automatically defaulted in some information. It's assuming, okay, well, the date for this contract is probably today, but I've got the ability to override that if I need to, but I'm eliminating some steps. And if I'm the one creating this approval, probably I'm the account rep, so it automatically defaults in my name. Again, it's just speeding up the process a little bit. So we're going to say this is for a big approval for $100,000. Okay, notice the form changed dynamically, real time. It detected that this is an approval for more than $30,000, and you'll notice that the approvers changes dynamically according to what that amount is. So that's really neat. I don't have to wait for a form save for that change. It's detecting based on the rules I've set up. So the number of approvers will be 3. Now I'm going to put in a contract type. Default status is pending. Notice the color coding. We've got a yellow color coding for pending. And then I'm just going to make up a fictional customer. And I need to put in some contact information. Of course, that's going to be validated. All right, and now I can go ahead and attach my contract. So I'll just drag over my Word document on here. Really easy to understand. I could drag multiple things in there. And then we need the approvers. Now, those could be determined by rules. Of course, every organization is going to be a little bit different. In my form, I've just got it where the requester should know who's supposed to be doing the approvals. In my demonstration, I'm going to make it me because I have rules in here that'll block the approval otherwise. And you'll notice this button appears when it's me. Just to demonstrate, I'll show you if it's not me, then I don't see an approval button. Okay, so I'm just going to make these all me. Naturally, you wouldn't do this, but I wouldn't be able to demonstrate the approval process otherwise. Okay, that's it. Pretty easy. I didn't really have to spend a lot of time to make my approval request. So that's certainly a key part of it. So I'm going to save that, and then my approval request for Big Steel Corp is showing up here. And you can see that I've got a summary of what's going on. We can see the dollar amount, the overall approval status is pending, and I see who the approvers are. We've got 3 approvers. I can tell that none of those approvals took place yet. And then that's going to auto-generate an email. So we have an email system where you can configure directly from SharePoint, and we can have it auto-generate the request so that we can notify those approvers and tell them, hey, a new request just came in, you'll need to go in and review that. And they can just click on the link, it'll take them directly to the form. Okay, so now let's go back into the form, and we're going to kind of look at next steps. One thing you'll notice, now I've got a send reminder button. So this can be clicked on at any time if this is important. Maybe I'm the account rep and I got to get this done. I really can't wait, and I need to, like I said, I need to nudge those approvers because things are stalled. So I've got that now showing, and I can click these buttons. What I want you to notice is what happens when somebody clicks the approval. Naturally, approvals should be really easy, both for the requester and also for the approver. So when I click this button, it asks me for a new approval status. So I've got 3 options. Starts out with pending. I'm just naturally going to do approve, but I can also do decline, and I just hit submit. That's going to update the approval history in the bottom. It's going to append to that log, and it helps everybody know when things took place. Notice that our dashboard updates. It shows that first approver has approved. I've got a green check mark there, and then it'll send another email just to provide status updates. So notice the approval history is updating. It gives the name and a date time stamp and what took place. Approval 1 set to approved. So we have all that detailed information, which is useful to us, but it happens all automatically. So I'll just go in and I'll do the rest of the approvals. Okay, again, it updated the log, and we can see we've got 2 approvals that have taken place, and now we've got 1 more to do. And after that, our overall status can change to approved. So notice the color coding on that, really easy to see where we are in the process. And approver 3 is now approving. Notice the overall approval status is showing on the dashboard now too. So we know this is complete. The overall approval has taken place, it's approved, so we're good to go with this. So that's what it's like from the user perspective. We've got this nice, easy to understand dashboard, a dynamic approval process. All this is very handy for us to work with. So how are you going to configure it according to your organization? Because naturally, you have a different approval process you want to do. You have different numbers of approvers, you have different roles, and so you would have to make adjustments to configure the system to work the way that you want. And luckily, that's easy to understand, and you don't have to do programming to make that happen. So when I go into the Ultimate Forms tools, I can go into the main tool, which is Form Designer, and that's where all of these settings were set up. And I'll talk to you about some of those and demonstrate how easy it was for me to do that. The first thing is just the static form, just setting up a form that looks the way you want. And luckily, that's really easy to work with. You can just drag fields out onto the interface, and then you can do things like control the colors just by picking from drop-down selectors, color swatches, stuff like that. So it's just drop-down menus and selections where I click, and that's really all there is to it. I can do multi-column layout, so you can see in the top I did a 4-column layout, and I just have to use a slider. I don't have to enter granular pixel amounts and crazy stuff like that. I can just use these grid containers to get what I want. Now, I wanted to have this message appear to users that changes depending on what the dollar amount was, and I want to show you how I made that work. I wanted to show this message depending on that dollar amount range. So the way I made this work is I was able to set a permissions rule, and I simply said if the contract amount is less than 10,000, show this message, the top one. So it only appears when the dollar amount's in that range. And then I simply duplicated that message and I just adjust the rule. So this one is for the 10K to 30K amount, and I just made a rule which is very similar. In this case, I said read if the contract amount more than equal 10,000 and the contract amount is less than 30,000. And so by setting those rules, it was very simple for me to change the message for the users. And using that same system, that's how I was able to make it dynamically show the correct number of approvers. I was able to set a rule for these containers. Now, we always have at least one approver, so I didn't need a rule for the first approver level. 2 and 3 is where we have special rules. So for this whole box, I simply said, if the approvers is more than or equal to 2, make that writable, and that makes it so that in the form, this will not appear unless the approver count matches that. That's how I was able to do the dynamic functionality. If I didn't have this, I'd have to do coding. I do have to do programming. It would be time consuming and a headache, and something I certainly don't want to deal with if I have an option, and luckily I do. Now I've got this special button, and it does 2 things for me. It updates the status in approval, and additionally we needed to update that log. So the way I do this is I can add buttons to the form, and I just said update approval 1, and I can just say change this value to whatever they select for their new approval status, and that's all that I have to do. All right, so this is how I'm able to do some of the configuration, and then it also writes into the approval history log, which is at the bottom. So this is the field in SharePoint, and what I'm able to do is set that so that it's only going to be read-only because it's just for viewing information. The user does not interact with that data. So you can customize this form and start with what I've already set up when you download the template later, and you can adjust it according to the approval that you want to do, because of course there are all kinds of different approval systems out there. The way you can get this template is to, after you get our software, which is free, you can go into the screen and you will click on Solution Catalog and then click on the second tab, which is InfoWise Webinars. And you'll see it as the very first tile later today. Right now it's showing the template for what I did in the last webinar. So that's where you'll be able to get this and download it into your own SharePoint environment. And then also you're going to be able to do the email notification rules. So this is where you can set up the email alerts for the contract approvals. And this is really easy to work with. So I simply can come in here and I just say whenever one of these is modified, and then I can put in my dynamic information. I can even do things like color highlighting if I want to, just to make things stand out. And that's how I can set up my email notifications. So there's a whole email alert system in here, which you can use to automate any notifications you need to go out for your system. There is a ton of functionality available in here, and there's a lot of depth to it. And so for me, as a SharePoint consultant and solution developer, this is great. There is a lot of things I can tap into. One thing that I appreciate about these tools is I figure out something new I can do with them almost every single week, and that's been the case for years. And that makes it really fun and exciting to me, because I love finding a better way to do things. So that's how you can get into those tools. So really, when you think about approvals, there's all kinds of different systems. Sometimes you may have what's called concurrent approval systems, which is how this one works. Or you may have a sequential approval system where you need to get the first approval before it goes on to the second. And using those form rules, you have the ability to set rules on when things appear in the form. And then also we can do the permissions to control who has access. One thing I didn't yet demonstrate was how the field level permission works for the approval button, which is very important. And the way I was able to do that is I set a permissions rule for each of these buttons, and it just works like this. So it says write if approver 1. And all I had to do is say if approver 1, the name of the person in the approver 1 box, is equal to this function, which I can reference, called current user, then make that writable. And so if this is not true, that button does not appear. So that's a really cool piece of functionality to make sure that only the designated approver can do that process. And here again on the approval, I have those set as read only. So although those are choice fields in SharePoint, these are going to be set by the button, and I can just set read rules to make it where it displays the value to the user. So I'm able to design my own interaction and functionality. Okay, let's talk about how you can get access, because that's important. So when you go to the InfoWhySolutions.com website, on the main page, click Try Now for free, and at that point you can do Install Now, and then it'll take you through a quick process where you can get the 30-day trial software installed in your own SharePoint. And once you've done that, you can get access to the template I showed today or any of our other templates. There's more than 100 templates in there, so you can look at any of those templates once you have the software installed. Another possibility, if you're not able to get that installed into your own SharePoint right away, you can sign up for an online trial and get access to a site in our own tenant while you're waiting if you need help from a SharePoint administrator. So that's another possibility. Another thing I wanted to mention to you is we'd be glad to talk to you. Although we can't talk to you on today's meeting, if you would like to have a one-on-one conversation, if you'd like to see a deeper demonstration of our software, if you go down this page, you'll see that there is an option to request a demo. And if you enter your information in there, I will get that request. We'll set up a meeting with you, and we can answer specific questions for you about what your project needs are, what you want to accomplish, anything you want to know about how these software tools work. So requesting a demo is always a good option. You can also email me directly. That's perfectly fine. My email is willc@infowysolutions.com. That's WILLC@infowysolutions.com. Let me look in the window. I'm curious if you guys have any questions. So I see we got some in there. I'm going to try to address some of those real quick. Just reading through. There was a question about DocuSign functionality, and we do have a signature field. So we do have an equivalent. If you like the idea of a handwritten signature, you can add a signature field. I'll show you where that is in our product so that when you try it out, you know where to go. So when you go into our main settings screen, just click on signature, and one of the options that we have is a handwritten signature type. It's a special field available in Ultimate Forms. I didn't show it in our form today, but that would be the thing to take a look at. There's a question about PDF output. You can make this do a custom PDF template. We have special print template capabilities, which will allow you to export to a PDF or Word, whichever you prefer. You can upload your own print template and export it to that. This is really easy to work with. You can start with your own custom template using Microsoft Word and make it look however you want. And then you can just reference the fields from the SharePoint form, and that can be all automated. As an example, in my case, when I completed my approval process, I can set up an automated action which would automatically create that PDF and send an email, or I could have it automatically dropped into a SharePoint library. So yes, this software does handle automation of PDF print templates very well. There's a question of whether it would be editable. No, that would be a read-only PDF. Any form-based data would happen in SharePoint, not in the PDF. There's a question about field level security. This is not a part of SharePoint. SharePoint doesn't have a concept of field level permission. So this is at the form level. This is making it so the users are controlled in terms of what sections they can see or not see, edit or not edit in the form. Okay, really good questions there. Keep your questions coming. If you have any questions about the approval process, you can keep asking me about that. I am going to pivot now, and I'm going to go on to the second part of my presentation, and we're going to talk about the dashboards part of it. So a lot of the fields that you see in my example are formatted using special column level templates, and those are included in this approval system, which you can download from the InfoWise site, but they originated from my toolkit, which is SharePointDashboards.com. So I'm going to discuss that a little bit with you for the last part of our presentation. So SharePoint Dashboards is about visualizing data and making nice looking summary information in SharePoint. And there are a lot of different options. So when you go here, you can look at this gallery page and browse through. You can see tile examples of different things you're able to do. All of the things that you see on the dashboard in my example came from this system. I'll describe a little bit about how that works. The thing that's great for you is you can sign up to get access to 21 templates for free with no other commitment. If you like those and if you use those a lot and you want to go on and take advantage of all these, then you can sign up for the Pro subscription, which gives you full access to the whole system. All you need to do is give your name and an email. It'll give you a sign up, and you can get access to all the templates that are shown on this screen. One of the most common ones that I use, I think I use it just about every day, is the edit button. SharePoint doesn't include that in modern views, but I sure like to have it because I like to open the edit form anytime. And the way it works is you just can configure the colors and options however you want, and you just click through these, and then once you've done that, you can download and then apply those into SharePoint. There's lots of good training information on our site that'll help you and show you exactly how to do this. And another thing that's great is there is a video tutorial for every one of these templates. So whether you're doing something simple like an edit button, or you're doing something sophisticated like a Gantt chart, which is really popular, you can just go through the video tutorial to see a demonstration of this applied in SharePoint, and then you can adjust all these configuration options to make it look however you want. So a lot of very cool options. And one thing that's nice is the licensing for this. It only requires a license for anyone applying the template. So anyone in your SharePoint environment who's viewing any of this information like the Gantt chart, they don't have to have licenses at all. You just need licenses for any of your SharePoint developer level users who are going to log into this tool to configure templates, then apply it to the site. So that's pretty much it. It's very straightforward, and this really complements Ultimate Forms. These are things that you can use in combination with the awesome Ultimate Forms tools to make for really compelling, awesome looking SharePoint solutions. So if you have any questions about SharePoint dashboards, feel free to put that in the Q&A section, or you can contact me through our contact form by just clicking on the Contact Us option, and I can answer any questions that you might have about that. One thing I should note, these templates are specifically for SharePoint Online or SharePoint Server Subscription Edition. So if you don't have those versions of SharePoint, if you're on an older legacy on-premise SharePoint, unfortunately these templates are not supported by Microsoft for that type of environment. But if you have a newer SharePoint environment, then you should be good to go. Does anybody have any questions about SharePoint dashboards? All right, well, I hope you will check that out. I'm going to keep the meeting going so that if anybody has additional questions, I can answer that. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording of the webinar.